Hi, today's Here's a Gizmo series of talks we're going to take a look at the Deek robot motor shield and how we can use it for our model railway layout. The reason I am using this shield to demonstrate it is I've used these in the past for a long time and had great success with them. Here you can see it on eBay with a UK seller for £10.99. You could of course use AliExpress to buy them cheaper direct from China if you wished. The motor shield on its own is not really much use, but when we connect it to an Arduino Uno or an Arduino Mega, we now get the potential to make a DCC EX Command Station. There is one modification we need to make to this board to be able to use it with the Arduino, and here you can see we have to cut the trace wire on the back to the VIN connect. This is very important. This motor shield is capable of supplying a maximum of 2 amps per channel. There is an alternative motor shield available for DCC-EX that offers 5 amps per channel, but this retails at £64 a unit in the UK. This is excellent if you've got a large layout with many locomotives, but for me, I'm going to stick with the Deek robot motor shield for the experiments. To get hold of the DCC-EX software, we type into here DCC-EX and press enter. Here you'll see this comes up if you click here, and this takes you to the DCC-EX website. Now, if we then click on here, and what I'm going to suggest is we click here for the automated installer. This will then ask you to download it, and in my case I'm using a Windows machine, so I will click on save, and that will download to wherever I set it to do so. So here you can see the exe file in my download folder. So if I double click it, it will take a few seconds to start up and you will see this screen appear. We then need to click on Manage Arduino CLI, and then we get this section coming up. Now you might see something slightly different because I've already installed the Arduino CLI, but what they recommend is you refresh it anyway every week or so just to make sure everything is up to date. So if there's any new updates they've put in, it's well worth doing this anyway. So here you can see it's installing some internet libraries as well as some other board lists. So we'll just let that go through, and there you can see it's complete. You could add the expressive ESP32 if you like, but in this case I'm not going to. I'm going to now select my device. So it's now searching for my device, and here you can see it's found an Arduino Uno on COM port 5. So now we'll select the products to install. Then we can see we've got a number of choices. Now for today, all I'm going to do is install a DCC-EX Command Station. And here you can see the latest product release, and this is the one it's recommended, so I'm going to stick with that. Configure options on the next screen, keep that as it is. So let's go through this. Then here you can see we get a number of other choices. The main thing I'm going to look at here is we need to pick up our motor shield. Now in this case I'm using a standard motor shield. You've got disabled EEPROM support. At the moment I'm not going to be using it, so I'm not going to click on that, and I'm going to click on compile and load. So we get to this screen, and then let's go here, load. Now this will take a little while to do it, so I may pause the video. Here you can see it's telling us how much of the Arduino Uno's memory we are using, in this case 87% with 54% of the dynamic. And here you can see, congratulations, you now have a working DCC EX Command Station. So we can click on Close. So here is the completed DCCX Command Station, and in this next part I will go into how we wired it up so that we can start running DCC ready locomotives. Being a Merg member gives you access to the many technical bulletins which can be found on the start page of the knowledge base. Here you can see it highlighted in green for the hyperlink to take you to the technical bulletin page. You will need to scroll down the page to the section called Layout Cabling, and I will draw your attention to the LC01/03 Guidance for Model Railway Layout Cabling, which was updated on the 1st of February 2024. In the table of contents, we're going to take a look at Section 8, Layout Functions, and we're interested in Chapter 8.2, Traction and Train Control, DCC. So in this section of the technical bulletin, you can see I have highlighted the 22 standard wire gauge, which is suitable for OO or HO gauge scale. As we will be using a 15 volt 5 amp power supply unit, this will work out great for the Deek robot motor shield. So this size wire will work out great for our track feed wires, ensuring we do not encounter any overheating issues due to possible short circuits. In section 3 of the technical bulletin, it gives us some cabling topology examples which we could use. In the past I have used the star network on my layout. It would have been better to use the bus or a ring network. So here you can see I've added the 6 wires we need for the DCC Command Station to work with our track. We have the input power coming from the power supply, and then we have 2 wires going to the main track and 2 wires going to a programming track. We have 2 ways we can power the Arduino. First, we could use the USB cable and use this connected to a PC, or we could provide power through a power supply through the barrel jack on the Arduino. So here you can see the track feed going out for the main from the Arduino to the various sections of the tracks and how they are all wired up. The last block section you can see a Merg Pocket Money Kit 7, which I'm also demonstrating later on in another series of talks. While we could run this command station on its own, just using the DCC EX and using X-Rail for automation, I'm going to be looking at using JMRI to control the trains. Because many members would be using different software to run their PC, i.e. Windows or iPads or whatever, you need to go to the releases page and click on the download for your particular platform. I will be using a Windows-based machine. I will not cover the download and installation of the software, as there are many great YouTube videos already out there for doing this, and I want to focus on just getting the shield and the unit working. So after installing JMRI, I have 2 desktop items, one called Panel Pro and one called Decoder Pro. For this talk we're going to look at Panel Pro. Opening the icon starts the JMRI program starting. The first thing we're going to need to do is go to Edit and scroll down to Preferences. This will then start up the Preference window. So in the Preference window, you can see we're on Connections and we've got None selected. We're going to scroll down to DCC++. We're then going to make sure we're telling it we're on a serial port. Then we need to scroll down and you can see here it's found a communication port on COM port 3. And then we need to click on Save. It'll ask you to restart, say yes. So now you'll see here it says we've got a DCC++ using DCC++ serial port on COM port 3. I have now moved the two wires from the main track supply and moved them to the programming track. So the next thing I want to do is I want to set up a loco, so I'm going to go to rosters and start this up. The first thing I need to do is turn on the track power, new loco, and I need to choose the decoder that I've got in my locomotive. In my case, it's a laser decoder, it's a locomotive, and it's a 4 output. I'm going to give it an address, and in this case I'm going to call it number 6, and give it a name, and we'll choose test. And then we'll click on write. And here you can see it's now programmed the decoder. I'll click save just in case, close this down, and here you can now see we've got a locomotive added. You'll notice here it was on programming track. I've now swapped over the cabling back to the main track. I only did this to save actually setting up a separate piece of track as a programming track. You could do it that way instead. We can now close this window and we're going to go to Tools and Throttles, New Throttle. I'm going to select the test locomotive and then we're going to make it go forward. As the train entered the block, you probably noticed the green LED coming on the Pocket Money Kit 7. This is the end of my presentation, so I'm now going to open it up to any questions you may have.